Do you think that getting global is easier in North America or in Europe? This is a question that nobody has asked me to answer, but I'm gonna try to anyways. How will I do this, your wrinkly smart brain may ask? Perhaps by watching globals in either region and comparing their playstyles and capabilities? No, that is way too much work. Instead, I'm gonna do something much more exciting. I'm gonna look at numbers. That's right, I know you're excited, so settle down and let's go. So I gathered data on 200 Faceit level 10s. 100 Bud Light drinking, truck loving, vape sucking North Americans, along with 100 ciggy smoking, bottle of wine for lunch, 3K ELO NA equals 2K ELO EU Europeans. You cocky sons of bitches. And with this study, and my high school statistics teacher would put me under a guillotine with a dull blade for calling it a study, I pulled each player's Faceit ELO and their rank. And with this, absolutely no bias involved here, I wanted to prove that the average rank of EU Faceit level 10 players is higher than that of the average rank of Faceit level 10 North American players. And what I found shocked me. But what made this all possible is the sponsor of this video, Leadify. I used Leadify to record the ranks and the ELOs used in this study. What I also use Leadify for is to analyze the automated stats that Leadify gives me on every game that I play. Along with this, Leadify will automatically capture highlights from your games so that you can send them to your friends and show them how nasty you are. Lastly, you can compare and share your accomplishments with your buddies. Leadify is amazing, man. They give you so much info that you can use to get better. Go log in and see your stats with the link in the description. Thank you, Leadify. Now, why the hell is this something that I would want to show or prove? Some context here for you. I learned and played CSGO in EU for 2.5 years. I got global in EU, I got level 10 in EU. I technically have more time spent playing CSGO in EU than I do in North America. I got level 10 before I got global. I switched to Faceit fairly early on in my CSGO journey, as it is very easy to be discouraged by the absolute lump of shit that is right now. But once I got level 10, and keep in mind this is in EU, I went back to get global, and it wasn't super hard in comparison to level 10 games. I think anybody who's been both global and level 10 would tell you that level 10 Faceit games feel much more competitive, much more difficult than global games do. So my point with all of this hoopla is that why the fuck is it so hard to get global in North America? Now that I'm back in the home of the brave and the land of the free, I'm reminded of how god-awful our matchmaking is. Look at this. These are the past 3 games I've played on These aren't, I didn't handpick these. These are the last 3 games, and I don't play at weird times. These are just, this is what it is. And so since I've been back, I've been bouncing between Lem and Supreme, and to be fair, I haven't properly invested myself into grinding matchmaking like I do with Faceit. It's just hard to care about the games when they're so wacky. So with this being said, I haven't gotten global in North America. I've only gotten it in Europe, and do not comment skill issue to boost the YouTube algorithm. Don't do it. And one phenomenon I've seen over and over is that where are the globals? It feels like whenever I play matchmaking, I'm Lem or Supreme, right? It's only 1 or 2 ranks away. It is so rare to stumble upon a global. It's like a goddamn unicorn here. When in Europe, it's like bunches and bunches of globals. They're just everywhere. So I'm not saying that NA globals are better players than EU globals. I'm not trying to fuel the fucking oil fire that is NA versus EU. I'm just trying to explore this weird thing that there's just no globals here. So how can I prove this with numbers? Well, I think if we take out our comically large microscope, and if we look at the rank of level 10s, we could kind of get an idea of how hard it is to get global in either region. So if I can show that a larger portion of European level 10s are global than North Americans, that could be supporting evidence that getting global in Europe is much more feasible than it is in North America. Now I know that that doesn't make all too much sense, but think about it. If getting global is much more feasible in EU, then we would expect a much larger proportion of EU level 10s to be global than North Americans. Does that make sense? Sorta. Anyways, let's jump into the numbers. So to facilitate my data recording, I gave each rank a numeric value. That way I could average it out at the end and see where everybody lies. The elo range here between both groups is pretty crazy. If I wasn't so goddamn lazy, if I didn't have a cute little cat I had to snuggle all the time, I would have been more diligent about this, but they're fairly similar. So in the end, the average elo for the North Americans was 2,551, and the average elo for the Europeans is 2,633. Okay, you ready? Because now it's the time for the moment of truth to prove my point that there are more globals in EU than in NA, that more level 10s in EU will be global than in NA. God damn it, I'm going crazy. Okay, here we go. Average rank for both groups. Okay, America. God bless America. Our average rank landed exactly on 16 somehow, which represents Legendary Eagle Master. Not bad, not bad. That's what rank I am. Cool. Okay, surely EU is gonna beat that, right? Nope. They landed on 15.72, which is somewhere between LE and LEM. That doesn't confirm my pre-existing bias. Damn it! No, there must be something wrong with the study, okay? Let's go back. Let's look back at the numbers. Look, these European goons, they have too many outliers. Look at this level 10 who's apparently MG1. That can't be right. He's on top of the Faceit food chain, but he's MG1? They're trolling. Okay, so let's limit the study to people who are only DMG or higher, because I would say anything under DMG, if you're Faceit level 10, then that's not really representative of your skill level. And okay, NA still has a higher average rank. Damn it! Now, if we look at the number of level 10s per rank, we can see that 26 out of the 100 Americans are global, while only 15 out of the 100 Europeans are global. What? What is going on over in Europe right now? However, Europe does have more Supremes, but when we look at globals combined with Supremes, 48% of the Americans are global or Supreme, while only 40% of the Europeans are global or Supreme. Now here's an interesting aspect. When we look at average elo per rank, we can see that NA is pretty all over the place. There doesn't really seem to be a solid pattern here, but when we look at EU, there's actually like somewhat of a pattern here. The elo goes in a descending order from global all the way to LE, with globals being around 3,100 elo. Okay, I'll admit this study absolutely sucked. It's fucking terrible. This is entertainment. I'm not a goddamn scientist, statistician, okay? It is definitely interesting, but to draw real conclusions, you know, we would need a much bigger sample size. We would need to conduct actual statistical analysis instead of me just doing averages, and probably having a dumb biased part-time YouTuber at the helm doesn't help either. What it has convinced me of is that maybe EU is in more of a similar place to NA than I thought it was. Back when I was playing in EU, the games were typically pretty fair. Like, the matchmaking worked pretty well. It would be very similar ranks playing against each other. Games felt competitive for the most part. Like, it was pretty good. Not like how it is here in NA. But maybe since I've moved back to the States, that's changed. I mean, I've heard that EU has been worse recently, so maybe it's just gotten much worse. Another factor here is the Faceit culture of EU. I would say that EU is very focused on Faceit, and a lot of people like me would switch to Faceit before getting global in And then after people switch to Faceit, they stop giving a fuck about because they realize, okay, Faceit is where it's at. This shit actually works. And so then they don't really bother. Like, what's the point of going back to get global when you really only care about Faceit now? But I would say that North America doesn't quite have that same Faceit culture to it that EU does. I think it's much more ingrained into the CSGO community over there than it is here. And this is probably the most radical conclusion of all, and that is global better than level 10 now? It's a question worth asking. I mean, I've grinded and Faceit here, I've gotten better, I've gained elo, but then I just can't get global. And I mostly solo queue, so solo queuing 2 global just feels like so impossible. But maybe if I was better, you know, if I was a better player, then I could get global. I bet that's the case. And so does that mean that Faceit level 10 is worse than global. But at the end of the day, who cares? sucks. It does. It's so bad. And I hope to God that is so much better in CS2 because it's terrible right now. It's a big turnoff for new players. At the end of the day, us Americans and Europeans, we can sit at the table together and put aside our silly NA versus EU debates and just share a laugh over how god-awful matchmaking is right now. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, this was kind of a new video. I'd really appreciate a comment. Please subscribe, like the video, all of that. I have more videos over here. You should go watch them. They're more educational than this goofy-ass video. And a huge, huge thank you to my channel members. They're scrolling by somewhere over here or over there. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. Thanks for supporting the channel. Have an amazing day. Good luck, have fun in all of your future games.